Welcome to my video. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing how to detach when it comes to mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Starting off with mentally, you can detach when it comes to mentally from whatever situation you're going through, or let's say mental thoughts or mental patterns that you keep having. So when it comes to the situation you're in, detaching from that mentally just means to stay in your own mental state of being. Don't allow that situation to affect and or influence your current mental state of being. When it comes to detaching from patterns, that mental forms that have turned into patterns, you need to understand where that is coming from at the starting point and detach from that. Therefore, you won't have that in your mental state of being anymore. And if you're in a situation where you need to detach when it comes to mentally, like I said, don't allow that situation to have an effect or an influence on your mental state of being, and just stay in your mind. Just stay, communicating to yourself. And when you do have to communicate with others, if you are trying to detach when it comes to mentally, don't give a reaction. Don't necessarily have an answer right away in your mind, but just take that in and do not react to it. Just take it in, and if it needs a reaction, then you can give that reaction. But in order to stay detached when it comes to mentally, just don't pay any mind to what's going on other than your own space, other than your own mental state of being. Only pay attention to what's going on when it comes to your reality when it comes to mentally. And if you're trying to, detach from something that was said, then, like I said, don't pay it any mind. Just move on freely. And if it's something that doesn't warrant a response or an explanation or anything of that, like, for example, then just stay detached. Don't bring yourself back into the situation unless you are ready to, and unless you are ready to mentally, let's say, be more in the external versus detached and in your own space. So this can be good for if you ever are having mental stress, you ever are having to just work very hard when it comes to mentally, and your mental state of being is becoming fatigued and exhausted, and this can be a means of preserving your mental state of being. So keep that in mind. And so moving on, how can you detach when it comes to physically? It's as simple as taking yourself out of that space and putting yourself in a space that is right for you. So if you ever are in a space where you want to detach from it when it comes to physically, just do that. And if you can't in the moment, then detach mentally, like I said. And also detach from the physical state of being by not allowing anything that's occurring around you or towards you or from you to affect, your physical state of being. Only allow it to make you stand even in a place that is right for you, that much stronger, and be able to detach physically by, like I said, not paying any energy towards what's happening, not paying any energy towards some mistake that happens, some setback that happens, some weird interaction with anything that happens. Don't allow that to change you and make you uncomfortable in that state of being of detaching, because you're detaching in this physical state of being. That means nothing will be able to affect you, and nothing will be able to put you in a space that is not right for you when it comes to physically. Right? Even if you are still feeling that energy, even though you don't have this happening or whatever is causing you to feel or sense that energy around you in your circumstance right now, know that there's that space, there's that physical space that exists. So you are detached in that aspect. But then even if you were around that, let's say, person, place, or thing, with that energy, just detach from that by not paying any energy towards it moving around in a way where you're physically detached, where you're not physically around something that is not right for you, to be able to be there to attach itself from you. So if you're trying to detach from a physical pattern or a behavior, then it's as simple as I just said. Not having it around you is important, not being near it is important, and detaching into spaces that are right for yourself against all odds. Finding that space that is right for you when it comes to physically. And physically, if anything seems to be occurring in your physical state of being, and you need to detach in order to give yourself that space and find that new space to be in, to where, okay, now I can apply myself when it comes to mentally. Pardon. But if I was going to then be mentally stressed out about something, detach when it comes to physically, and maybe then eventually attach yourself back into that mental state of being, and now apply that, now that you've had that space to detach. And then if you're, say, feeling like, oh, I don't want to do this right now, or I just don't feel like it, or something like that, a lot of times, don't just be like, oh, I'm going to give up and I'm not going to do it because I don't feel about it. Just detach for the time being physically and go into a space that is right for you. Therefore, you can now get over what that obstacle is that you need to get through. And when it comes to emotionally, detaching emotionally is, for me in my experience, is not allowing the way that I feel to stop what I'm doing when it comes to my plan or my goals or whatnot. Not allowing anything external to me or internal or something that I'm dealing with affect my emotional state of being, and having that emotional independency and that emotional stability and emotional intelligence to be aware of what I'm feeling at all times, and be aware of how person, places, and things are making me feel, and if that needs to be something that I should attach to. If none of that is true, then detach when it comes to emotionally. That means not paying any, let's not say care, because you can care about the things that you care about, but not caring for things that are not meant for you. Not caring for places, persons, peoples, and things that are not meant for you, and that are not, let's say, in support of your well-being when it comes to your emotional state of being. So detaching emotionally, you could be detaching from anything, and it could come into play when, like I said, you have to do things that are possibly uncomfortable, possibly you don't want to do. You don't want to keep feeling this way. You don't want to keep experiencing this emotional state of being. Then tell yourself that you're not going to do that. You're going to detach when it comes to emotionally. And if that means not bringing your emotional state of being into a space where it can be affected by where you're at, or what you're doing, or who you're around, or what things you're interacting with it, or what things you're interacting with, then therefore you can experience a space of emotional, stability, and a space where you're not influenced by any of those things, and that you're only putting forth what needs to be worked on when it comes to, hey, my emotional state of being, I am not bringing that in there because it is not for my best interest and for my emotional state of well-being to have my emotional state of being there, to bring that emotional state of being into that space. And that, therefore, will protect you in a way where you can detach from your emotional state of being. And when it comes to spiritually, how can you detach? Well, you can detach from anything that you've been used to when it comes to spiritual systems. Let's say religion, for example. You can detach from religion. Don't just listen to what you've known and because it's what you've known and the way you were brought up and whatnot. why not detach from that? Create your own spiritual system, create your own spiritual beliefs or your own spiritual faith. And you have to put that spiritual faith in yourself in order to know that you have the strength. So detaching from that when it comes to, let's say, a path that you may be on and that you need to find a new path. So detach from your past spiritual path in order to attach and move into a new spiritual space and state of being that was going to be more right for you. If you are on a spiritual path where you're sensing from your intuition spiritually that you are not necessarily in the right space and state of being, then detach from that and realize that spiritually you're shutting off that part and that path, and you're moving towards a new path and a new part and a new space along your spiritual journey. As well as detaching spiritually from spirits and that are not right for you, whether that means spirits that you are in when it comes to, let's say, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, detaching from those and putting the space between those and your spiritual state of being will help you in ways to detach from that and will aid in putting you on that new spiritual state of being. And of course, spiritually, always keeping accountable what is going on and how, spirits around you are interacting, and being able to spiritually detach from all the things that are going to hold you back in order to make space for your spiritual state of being to be in favor of your well-being. And that's going to be it for this video. That was all about detaching, and I hope you guys found something in this that was interesting, something that you learned that you didn't know before, or something that confirms something that you were thinking. And if you did, show some support. And until the next one.